Welcome into the
Hello.
Bleav in Steelers show on the Bleav Network. I'm Mark Bergin. He's Ike Taylor. IT, it's been too many moons since I've seen your face. I hope you had a terrific 4th of July holiday weekend. How you doing this morning, my man?
I'm doing good. We just got off a beach workout this morning. Had a beach workout yesterday. It's 90-something degrees in Florida, but, it felt like 110. But other than that, Taylor's, we stay working.
Yeah, that humidity is no joke on the beach. The sand is the great equalizer. I can tell you that much.
Oh, I mean, just from walking on the sand, like you done found out some muscles or some ligaments in your body you ain't even know that you had when you coming off that sand workout. And you don't feel
It's
it till the next day.
Yes, it's after the fact. Day
Correct.
of, you're like, oh, I'm okay. And then the next day, it's just like, why am I sore in this place of my body?
For real. That's exactly how I feel.
Ike, I hope you are well. It is good to see you. We have an absolutely loaded show. I am fired up. Today, we'll answer listener questions, viewer questions during our What Yinz Think segment. We'll also talk about Netflix and the series. On the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, I think they should have picked the Steelers, but we start. Kenny Pickett is taking a page out of your book. Back in your playing days, you had music and iPod Nano synced up to your helmet. He's got a camera during practices. Yet another development tool for the second-year quarterback. But as soon as I saw this headline, I thought of you.
Yeah, so that I'm guessing, Mark, that's the new wave. The first person I saw that, at least nationally, what they talked about was Tua down there in Miami. He had a camera, cam on his helmet for the Miami Dolphins, and Kenny Pickett doing the same. But if you think about it, man, that's just an extra step, especially when it comes down to film study, practice study, on what a quarterback might be looking at and how you can teach first, second, third read, especially coming off of coverages and depending on what the play is. So just an extra tool in the toolbox. Technology is so helpful these days, Mark. And the only thing I can think about is, a lot of other teams with young quarterbacks. I wouldn't be surprised if Indy do it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Carolina Panthers start to do it, just to enhance these young kids, these young men, especially at that quarterback position, Mark, on actually when you watch tape, seeing exactly what they're looking at. So, I'm a visual learner. So at the quarterback position, that's definitely going to give them a visual aspect on what they first, second, and third read, especially coming from that quarterback cam helmet.
I think about the pre-snap reads as well and the pre-snap alignments of defenses and where your eyes are as a quarterback, Ike. And that's what I think of when I read this. Now, I thought it was very interesting that Kenny Pickett says, I would love to get a similar camera on Steelers all-pro safety Minkah Fitzpatrick to learn to see how he is a ball hawk as a defensive player and teach some of the same things, but what he's doing on the other side of the football, Ike.
Yeah, Minkah ain't nothing but a quarterback on the defensive side as well.
Yeah.
But it's just something you can't teach with Minkah, and that's instincts. So that's why if you just go back, Coach T said he saw this before. What he meant by that is I seen a guy with instincts, and the first guy I saw who was very instinctive was Troy Polamalu, Hall of Famer. So when you look at Minkah, man, yeah, it'll look good from the helmet cam point of view, but when it comes down to them instincts, not a lot of players, especially at that position, are very instinctive like that. So that's what makes Minkah so different, Mark.
I also think about this as a way to where if Kenny Pickett is doing something particular that could potentially be a tell pre-snap, that this would help be able to eliminate that. And Ike, as someone who played cornerback 12 years in the NFL, were there times you could pick up on a tell of a quarterback or of an opposing offensive player based on your film study?
Yeah, but for us, Coach Ray Horton, I got to tip my hat out to Coach Ray Horton, my DB coach. He just simplified the game so fast. I picked up a few tendencies when it came to a receiver or a tight end or personnel. But once Coach Ray Horton came through, he was like, man, we're always playing offensive coordinator. It was like, what you mean by offensive coordinator? He was like, offensive coordinators always have tendencies on first, second, and third down. Then after you look at their tendencies, he said pick out 5 plays. 5 plays with the offensive coordinator like doing first down, second down, and third down. Now they're gonna get to their plays out of different formations, But yeah, you gotta respect the receiver you're playing, Ike. But the receiver can't run the route unless he gets it from the offensive coordinator. So just look at the OC. Let's see what the OC tendencies are. And once he broke it down to us like that, that's when my game kind of shot up and it slowed down a lot for me because all you doing is playing just like on the defensive side. Dick LeBeau, Hall of Fame Dick LeBeau. Dick LeBeau got his tendencies too on first, second, and third down. So it won't nothing but like it's just a chess match, I would say. But what I did like about Dickey taught us the weakness to our defense, so we understood what the offense was trying to attack us. But as far as like playing a receiver, I always respected all receivers, Mark. But I knew they had to get their routes, or the quarterback had to call calls depending on what the offensive coordinator did. So we always studied the OC.
Correct me if I'm wrong here too, Ike. I'd imagine that familiarity is even greater among the teams in your division when you're playing them at least 2 times a year, sometimes during your playing career when you get into the playoffs, like 3 times in a single season.
It's a wrinkle. It's one small wrinkle. And when we played Baltimore 3 times that year, we knew what each other was going to do. We knew all the plays. That's why it was low-scoring games. It was just a small wrinkle. And when you play teams like that and you play them twice a year, everything just becomes instinctive, So, and they say football is a game of inches. And when you play the Baltimores at the time, when we was both hot and winning championships, man, it was a game of centimeters. Because you can be on the receiver, I can be on the receiver, and he had no way to catch that ball. And he wound up coming down with the ball, and it could have been 3rd or 6. So that's what it was. So when you just familiar with each other like that, Mark, it's just who's going to make that one play. And that's when it usually came down to. A majority of the times, either that was from special teams, either coming off a kickoff, a punt return, or a field goal.
Yeah, Ike, and this technology that Kenny Pickett is using is not new, but it's new to the NFL. Again, Kenny Pickett, Tua Tagovailoa is using it, but all you have to do for Pittsburgh is go across the hallway. And when Nathan Peterman was a quarterback at Pitt, he was using some of this technology during practice just to see, again, a lot of it's pre-snap reads. There's only so much that a single camera can show you. But if you can know where to go with the football based on the coverage, the alignment of an opposing defense, I think it's going to help any young quarterback, regardless if they're at the collegiate level, regardless if they're at the NFL level. But again, Ike, taking this back to your playing days too, I saw this and I'm like, Ike might not have had the camera to study after the fact with the virtual reality and practice to get those mental reps, but I know you were locked in the zone listening to Lil Wayne. I'm sure you had other great rap music on your playlist with an iPod Nano. That was the technology back in the day, like 10 years ago.
Man, I couldn't believe I did that. I wound up setting my helmet like that, and it just put me in the zone. Just for like working out. It's a different kind of workout when you got music playing. So I said, you know what? Let me just try to put music in my helmet. So I wound up sliding the music in my helmet, Mark, and it's like chewing gum, but we got the mouthpieces in, so you can't chew gum. So it was just like very, very relaxing for me. And at that time, and at that point in my career, we just knew hand signals, between me, Troy, and Ryan Clark, man. All we had to do was just look at each other, Mark, and we understood what each other was saying. So we didn't have to talk. And that was the camaraderie, that was the brotherhood, and that was countless hours and countless days and countless reps to where we just figured it out. But all that started in practice. So me having some music in my helmet, man, I think I know I'm probably the only dude who ever did it in the history of football.
Yeah, someone's got to bring that back. We can be hush-hush about it. We can be quiet about it. And like we go down to your neck of the woods in Louisiana, LSU now has the air conditioning helmets for this upcoming season. Those will last up to 5 hours. I wonder, though, you have to go back to that 2018 game where it was like a 7 overtime game against Texas A&M. Does the AC go out, when you get to the 3rd or 4th overtime, Mike? But that's the only other thing I've heard that's even remotely like this is those air-conditioned LSU helmets, which I guess are pretty cool. You just look at the player's reaction when they actually put the helmet on, Ike, and that tells the entire story in terms of does this actually work or not?
Yeah, so, in Florida, especially down south, Mark, between I would say May and stepping into September. September gets cool. That's perfect for anybody. If you're in the southern region and you play football between Texas, you slide all the way over east to Florida. When it's hot, man, you put on that AC helmet, and it's going to get more popular. A lot of other colleges, they're going to start doing it. But by the end of the day, it just makes sense. The cooler you are, the more non-fatigue you are, the more you're able to play at a high level. That's what separated the good from the great. They never got fatigued. And when everybody else was getting fatigued, it was like they had more energy than others. And it helps your mentals as well. When you're fatigued, mentally you collapse. So I can only imagine me playing with an AC helmet. Man, ain't no telling how long I could have played for because I always thought I was just in shape, period. So, technology these days, Mark, is these kids are getting everything at their disposal, whether it's you going to college and you having a massage therapist, or you have something called a car wash. A car wash meaning as soon as you get out of practice, you got somebody taking your helmet, taking your shoes, cleaning them. You got a hot tub, cold tub. You got the ice machine. You got pretty much everything at your disposal when it comes to that. Now we're just going to incorporate a helmet or AC. So time will tell. But, this generation, man, they got everything they're looking for as far as like a football player.
Ike, we're going to continue this conversation in just a second. We're going to tell our listeners and viewers about BetOnline.ag, the presenting sponsor of today's Bleav in Steelers show. If you want to place a bet on any of the sports action, there are a lot of great NFL futures that you could place a wager on. BetOnline.ag is the place to do it.
Yeah, make sure y'all go to BetOnline.ag. Regardless on what sport it is, they're always open 24/7, 365 out the year.
Head over to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code Bleav. You can see that on your screen right now. BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. Ike, did you ever try one of those air-conditioned helmets? I know they're new.
No, that's too new for me. I'm too prehistoric for football. So, I've been retired going on 10 years. So, no, yeah. I never tried it. Never had the option. It was never even thought about, to be honest with you, Mark.
Yeah. I saw this and I'm like, is this even necessary? But again, especially in the South, SEC, ACC country, Ike, the region you mentioned, it gets very, very hot. You mentioned it's September, even sometimes into October. It's like, is this the fall or the summer? One thing I wanted to ask you about with all this new technology too, Ike, is when you were going from Louisiana Lafayette to the Steelers, what did you notice immediately upon going from playing college football to the NFL, where it's like, whoa, at the NFL level, we have way more resources than we do even, say, in college?
It's the culture. I was very fortunate, Mark, to have Hall of Fame coaches on the offensive staff and defensive staff. And the way they simplified it made my game even better. But by the end of the day, I just understood, as a rookie, it's a business, so there's no such thing as a 5, 4-star, 3-star athlete. It's, man, these guys really feeding their families. These guys been playing for a long time. It's the concrete jungle, so say, if you want to say it like that. And can't nobody help you but yourself. Mama can't help you, daddy can't help you, auntie, grandma can't help you. And that's how I looked at it. By the end of the day, I just caught on real fast to understand how big of a business this NFL was. So once I understood that, going towards the end of my rookie year, I was like, this is what it is. So that's what I would say to any rookie: understand the business side of this football. It's not fair at all. But all you can do is make sure your coach understand and is very comfortable with you playing on the field. If it's 60 plays, they feel comfortable on the field with you playing 60 plays because you know your playbook. What was the most difficult thing for me, Mark, was the double-digit calls. Coach LeBeau came in with double-digit calls. And what I mean by that, we can have 2 calls on 1 call, depending on what the offense did, depending on the formation, depending on the motion. So that was a big adjustment for me as far as like calls in the tight windows. Quarterbacks was throwing the balls in tight windows. You know what I'm saying? What I meant by that is you can be on a receiver, but the receiver's still coming down with the football. So that's exactly what that was.
Ike, Terrific insight there. And that's a perfect segue to our What Yinz Think segment, where we answer some of our viewer questions. And let me make sure I move this around correctly. Give me just a second here. We start with a question from Terry Breedlove, and this comes with the Steelers adding both Joey Porter Jr. and Cory Trice Jr. in the NFL draft. Terry asks, how quick can a cornerback out of the draft be an NFL-ready level cornerback that a team can trust?
Terry, it's the competition he's going against in practice. And lucky for JP Jr., he has Deontay Johnson, who might be one of the best underrated route runners in the game. You got Calvin Austin III, who might be one of the fastest wide receivers in the game. And you have Alien, George Pickens, who probably one of the most freakish wide receivers in the game. So you got three kind of people. Now I'm going to go back into when I played. I had Plexico Burris, who was 6'4", 6'5". I had Hines Ward, who was probably the toughest multi-wide receiver you can never go against. And I had Antoine Randall L. So depending on who I played for the week, I wind up going against that person on my team. I was very fortunate at the time to have that. Usually teams don't have them three type of bodies, them three kind of receivers. That's exactly coming to Pittsburgh as a cornerback who you have. You have a freak in George Pickens. You have probably one of the best route runners in Deontay, and Calvin Austin III, probably one of the fastest guys in the NFL once he gets back healthy. And in the slot, we just picked up Allen from the LA Rams. So you got a 6'4", 230 receiver as well. So you got pretty much every kind of body you're looking for. So once JP understand that, and I think he will as soon as he get to training camp, like depending on the day or depending on what I want to work on, let me go on these three types or four types of body receivers and to get my game, because some receivers going to be fast and others. You can check George Pickens. You can be on him. He's still going to come down with the ball. I know I might got to open up a little bit faster than other receivers than Calvin Austin III. And I really got to trust my technique when it comes down to Deontay Johnson. So lucky for JP Jr., man, he's going to be straight regardless because he has all them kind of body types when it comes down to the receiver position, which I had when I was playing between Plex Hines Ward and Antoine Randall L.
Ike, at what point, I know a young player, let me preface it this way. I know a young player wants to get on the field as soon as he can, but at what point were you like, I'm prepared, I'm ready, it doesn't matter who lines up against me from an offensive standpoint, to where I know that not only I belong on the field, but I can be a successful player on the field? At what point did you realize that in your young career?
The middle of my second year. Like once my rookie year was fast, my second year, my sophomore year in the league, it slowed down a lot. And then once I just got enough reps, game reps, I knew in my soul, I knew in my body I was ready. So that was for me. But you got to understand too, Mark, I was coming off of just playing 1 year in college. So technically, that was my junior year in college, so say, but my second year in the league. These guys, JP Jr., he been playing corner damn near all his life, so he's going to be a step ahead of me because he's been playing that position longer than me. So his transition might not have to take him to the second year like how it took for me. He can just get it in training camp because he's getting the first or splitting the first team reps right now in OTAs and mini camp. So by the time he get to training camp, which he's been in training camp since he was small, working with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so they ain't nothing but home for him. So once he get in training camp, get his reps, get his feet underneath him, understand how the system gonna go, he can get that ASAP. For me, it just took longer because I only played 1 year in college.
Well, you played the 1 year in college and you were a running back. So your rookie year with the Steelers was only the second year you played corner, correct? At least full time.
So I played. So full time was my senior in college. That was my full time.
That was your first. That was your first year.
Correct. And
that's unbelievable. See, Ike, you're not like the rest of us. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. The only coverage we played was man. We might have sprinkled a little bit cover 3 in there, but for the most part, we played man. We ran that 4-4. We ran that 4-4. Me and Charles Tillman ran that 4-4 defense with Coach Garrett Bartell, and it's you on him and you on him, and you let the linebackers and the two safeties work. So that's pretty much what was all for me. I ain't know no better, but man, once I got to the league, you talking about 5 zones, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, and I'm like, man, what the hell going on? So that's what got me. So just leaving it. Then Dick LeBeau understood what was comfortable for me, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna run man because I got a guy. That's all he wants to run. So let's start finding us man corners when it comes down to the draft. So that's exactly what it was. So JP Jr. he gonna get it ASAP because he's been doing it. He's been around the game. He's been in the locker room. Mark, he's been on the big stages, around the big stages, winning Super Bowls and blase. So JP Jr. gonna be straight. But that was the transition for me only because I played 1 year at corner.
One thing I noticed with what Omar Khan did in this draft too, both Joey Porter Jr., Cory Trice Jr. as well, like they're bigger corners as well. They're not undersized at all. They're both 6 foot plus. So it's just something I've noticed here in terms of how the NFL is changing. And it's like, I think I heard you say this. I know Mike Tomlin has said this too, almost like avatars in terms of the length. You get the size and the speed, and being able to jam a receiver at the line of scrimmage, being able to play off whatever style you want to play, you're able to do that with bigger corners because if you want to play man, then you got to throw over the top and you get a long reach with the corner versus, say, a corner that's a little bit more undersized. That window is just a little bit bigger, that catch radius for a receiver. Not to say that young corners or undersized corners can't get it done in the league, but
Right.
It's something that I'm noticing with what the strategy was with the type of corners that the Steelers brought in this offseason.
You play for your division. You got to see them twice. And when you win at your division, it's an automatic spot in the playoffs. So you always drive towards your division. And if you look at our division, we got some hell of a receivers, especially nowadays. Now in Baltimore, OBJ, they picked them up as well. You get Zay sitting in the slot. Then when you go to, you still got Cooper sitting over there with the Browns. Then, they got probably one of the best trios in the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals, between T, Chase, and I'm missing my slot.
Boyd.
T, Chase, and Tyler Boyd.
Yep.
So, yeah, you always draft for your division, always, because you see them twice. And that's how I was raised. We're always getting corners to play guys in your division. You win in your division, regardless of what you do outside of your division. You can have a bad record outside your division, but hell, if you go 6-5 and in your division, that's an automatic berth when it comes down to the playoff spot. So, and that's what they went back to. They went to young, tall, physical receivers. The ball had to be thrown perfect. If you want to go deep, the ball got to be thrown perfect. If that avatar is close to one of those receivers, he can easily get his hands in there and knock the ball out. If he's in good position, he gonna pick the thing off, Mark. So that's all we do. When you're talking about from a GM perspective, you always draft them for your division because that's all you talk about from a front office or a scout standpoint. Man, who can I draft to help us in our division, and what's the personality going to be like?
Thank you to Terry for that question. We will continue on, and we've got another question from Stephen Carpenter. And I'm going to hold your feet to the fire here because I know that the Steelers always draft well at receiver. But Stephen asks, who are a couple receivers and tight ends that Ike hated to go up against where their footwork and route running gave you headaches, or a physical guy who made it hard to go up and contest catches? Thanks, guys. Love the show.
I wouldn't say hate. It was always, I love challenges, but that young man, Martavis Bryant, that we had, you want to talk about 6'3.5", 210, 215, who can run vertically, but also as well, Mark. The boy had wiggle like he was a little man, and he can definitely jump out the gym. That was Tate. You want to talk about one of the most physical receivers, that was Hines Ward. You didn't want to piss him off. You didn't want to wake him up because he just had that running back / quarterback mentality. You get the ball in my hands, I'm going to make a play, I'm going to run your ass over. That was Hines. You want to talk about pound for pound, probably one of the best breaking out a tackle or just run a slant and taking it to the house, that was Antonio Holmes. You want to talk about by far, which he probably go, he'd just be doing some off-the-wall stuff off the field. That's Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, for a 6-year span, well, nobody in the league doing what he did. So I was very fortunate enough to go against receivers like that, all different kind of receivers as well. But I played against the Randy Mosses, the Steve Smith Juniors. I played the Chad Ochos, like R.I.P. the Chris Henrys. Like I played against some Terrell Owens. I played against some Hall of Fame receivers. The late Jerry Rice when he was on the back end, when he was with the Raiders. So I had my fair share of receivers. Mark, and all of them brought something different to the table. So I wouldn't say even Aaron Hernandez probably was the most trouble. I ain't gonna say probably was the most trouble. If Aaron Hernandez would have kept his head straight, ain't no telling when he was going directly to the Hall of Fame. As soon as he hung his cleats up, that's how special he was. So I played against him. Antonio Gates was a dog. Tony Gonzalez was a dog. So I played against, even when we had Heath Miller sitting on our sideline in training camp, was a damn dog. So that's just what it was, man. In my era, I just played against some receivers who just pretty much brought everything different to the table, and tight ends. Back in the day, our tight ends, they had to block, regardless of what team you was on, whether you was blocking or you receiving. I think Tony Gonzalez probably would have been the first flex receiver when it came down to it. He did it for a long time. Antonio Gates only played, tight end for 1 year. He played basketball, So let's just show you, the athleticism of guys I played when I played in the NFL.
Were those players that when you were designing a game plan in advance of the game where it's like know where this guy's lined up on the field? Like, I think we lost you for just a second, but we will get you back here. When you were game planning, were those players where it's like know where they're at on the field in advance of the game?
Yeah. The guys I just named were Hall of Fame guys. So if you ain't know what a Hall of Famer was, you just looking for a recipe of distraction to get burnt. You know what I'm saying? So you had to know where those guys I just named where they was at all the time.
Yeah, Ike, you're in my brain a little bit there, which is a dangerous place to be. But we always talk about the criteria for Hall of Fame players. And you always tell me, well, it's like, well, did we game plan for that specific player or not? And obviously, you're going to know that having spent 12 years in the league. Ike, we will end on a fun one during our What Yinz Think segment. I absolutely love this question. And this comes from Steelers Nation Australia. Ike, I don't know if you knew that we have fans in Australia here on the Bleav in Steelers show. They ask, if you had to choose of these two options, you can fight 2 male kangaroos or James Debo Harrison after he ran his 99-yard interception return in Super Bowl 43. Which are you picking?
Yeah, I'm going with B. I'm fighting Debo after the 99 yards because he was tired as hell. So that's the only time I'm fighting, Debo. I'm gonna catch him at that 99-yard interception for that Super Bowl for sure.
Ike, I hate to agree with you. Did some research on this. Apparently, a kangaroo can run something like 30, 35, 40 miles per hour at top speed. So even if I had your speed, I wouldn't be able to run away. I would pick Harrison immediately after the interception return because I know the quote he had during a football life that he told Mike Tomlin saying, "Hey, I'm tired, boss," immediately after he needed oxygen on the sidelines.
Yeah, I ain't trying to run away from no kangaroos. They definitely got short arms, so I'll punch one of them in the face, probably go to sleep. But I'm definitely taking Debo with B because I saw Debo on his last breath when it came down to the 99 yards, and I figure I got some kind of action.
Yeah. One of the most iconic plays in Super Bowl history. And here's the thing, too, with this question, the way that it's phrased, Ike. I would pick B, and then immediately as soon as Harrison would get started his oxygen back, I'd realize that and be like, it's time to go. I got to leave before he can get his full wind back, and I'm out of there. So it just says that I have to fight one of the two. It doesn't say I have to win said fight.
Yeah, I'm taking Debo when he's on the ground. I'm not about to wait till he get up. When he down on the ground and he's stretched out like he's in the snow about to do the snow angel, that's exactly where I'm going.
Ike, that's What Yinz Think. Love this segment. Thank you for that question. Steelers Nation Australia, listening all the way on the other side of the blue marble. Love that. Final segment of the show today. Netflix is making a 10-part documentary series on Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Kudos to one of the most successful sports owners in the history of not just the NFL, but all of sports. But I go back in the 1970s when Pete Rozelle is saying, we want to brand America's team. And he goes to the chief, Art Rooney Sr., and says, do we want to be this for the Pittsburgh Steelers? And he says, no, we just want to be Pittsburgh's team. And I know your 2000 Steelers teams, like I know you got stories. We've had your teammates on here on this show. Hilarious, great stories. But there is a gold mine of stories, both on the field and off with the 1970s team. I don't even know where you want me to start. But if Netflix is doing a 10-part documentary series on the Cowboys, love to see the 1970s Steelers get their due. I know they do in the 4-1-2, Ike. But listen, man, like I've got a whole list of storylines that you could discuss from the 1970s, Ike.
You talking about for I mean, let's go with Jerry. This is exactly what Jerry wants. All about Jerry. This is right up his alley. When you think of the Dallas Cowboys, you think about Jerry Jones, right? And you look at the history on him, how he got the Dallas Cowboys, and exactly where they was at to where they are now. When you want to talk about branding, nobody does it better than Jerry Jones when it comes down to the branding part, correct? So you got to tip your hat off to Jerry. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we just made different. The late great Godfather of football would say, and Mr. Art Rooney, Chief, he just wanted the world to know this is all about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it had nothing to do with him. So that's the difference between the two different kind of owners at the time. Now, Jerry Jones, when you want to talk about guys who played for Jerry Jones, guys love playing for Jerry Jones. That's just what it is. But I can see Netflix doing the series and getting the rights for Jerry Jones because, it's all about Jerry when you want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. It's just our mentality when you come to that 4-1-2 is a little bit different. That door always open. We didn't have the luxury like other teams had or organizations had, Mark, but we did have one thing, and that was each other. And we worked, So everybody who was drafted by Pittsburgh, everybody who left another team and came to Pittsburgh, everybody said the same thing. We see why. And what I mean by that, like, we see why y'all win all the time. We see the brotherhood. Like, I've been on this team for 10 to 12 years. I come to your team for 2 years, and it's just a totally different feel. I didn't get this acknowledgement at this organization, but I'm getting all this acknowledgement at the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I done heard all the stories. So I was just very fortunate enough to get drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers and have stories from other players coming from other teams. And it was like they see why, we play the way we play. It's genuine. So, yeah, you can keep the brand. Jerry can keep his brand. Probably one of the highest ranked organizations when it comes down to money. And the man is a businessman. So you got to tip his hat off to them. I just know in that 4-1-2, we worry about each other and hoisting them Lombardis.
Like going back to the 70s, like the stories you would have, just go by position group, right? Frenchie Fuqua had goldfish in his shoes, live goldfish. Rocky Bleier fighting in the Vietnam War, getting shot in the leg, almost couldn't even walk again, comes back and is a key player on the 70s teams. If you want to go the defensive line, Mean Joe Green, I can't remember if this was after his first or second year, was so mad after I think it was the regular season finale for the Steelers, took the ball, just chucked it in the stands and walked off the field because he was so angry. Like, I could keep going. I mean, Fats Holmes shooting at a police helicopter during a chase. Like, there are so many things. And I would encourage any of our listeners and viewers, if you want to know more about the 70s Steelers, Their Life's Work. It's a great book that details a lot of this in terms of what built the foundation of what we know the Pittsburgh Steelers of today. It's something that I don't think that the current generation really, really knows about in terms of when you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers how that foundation really began in the 1970s with Mean Joe Green and company. But like, there are so many different storylines you could follow if it was Netflix or HBO or a streaming service, cable service, wanted to do a full documentary about just, it was just a totally different era, Ike.
Yeah, it's a few things I can't say. It's been movies, documentaries where they talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers in the '70s and how they used to party and the life they lived back in the day. There was rock stars. There was rock stars before football players can be rock stars. I will say, chopping it and sitting down with the late great R.P. Franco Harris, the Mel Blunts, the Rocky Blyers, just the Websters, the Terry Bradshaws, just chopping it down, just sitting down and listening to these stories. It's a few things you can't repeat, Mark, because a lot of people get in trouble. A lot of people get in trouble right now. But from what you just said, from shoes with goldfish in them to shooting at a police
Yeah.
helicopter, to smoke, even back, Three River Stadium had cigarette ashtrays in the locker. So they were just built a little bit different. So picture, you probably, halftime you smoking a Marlboro or a Camel stick, then you're going back on the second half and you playing football. Like, it was just different back in the day, Mark. So it's the '70s Steelers, man. There was rock stars before rock stars. Uh, their mindset was different, and it's a reason why them boys, won 3, 4, 5 championships at a time. That's just they started this for me. They started this for us, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were the pioneers on what you wanted to call a dynasty back in the '70s.
Ike, you brought another story to mind when we had Craig Wolfley on, and he was telling us about an unnamed Chiefs lineman where after the game at Three Rivers Stadium, they had the famous sauna where you go and enjoy a few beverages after the game. And the Chiefs lineman gets so carried away that he ends up missing his own team bus after the fact. That same sauna, I forget which players, one of the players' moms was at the game, and they say, hey, do you want to come in the sauna with us? And the mom is sharing a time at the sauna, bonding with the players after the fact. Like, you can't make that up.
And it was different. And one of those social media back in the day. And one of those, it was. I mean, I can share plenty of stories, and we got plenty of time, even in the early 2000s. But you can only imagine back in the '70s how them boys lived.
Yeah. So kudos to Jerry Jones. I will end up watching this, Ike. It's going to be terrific. But I'm just thinking about this from Pittsburgh's standpoint. I hope the Steelers get their due, and I'm sure that they will. But go back and read history, and it's just like totally different era. Ike, that's a full show here on today's Bleav in Steelers show. I'm excited in the coming weeks. We'll have guests on in advance of training camp, preseason. We're still about a month away. Got to get through these next few weeks. I am dying for football. But I want to thank you, the Bleav Network, today's presenting sponsor, BetOnline.ag. If you're watching this on YouTube, please tap that subscribe button. If you're listening on a podcast, please leave us a 5-star review, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, all the different platforms. But Ike, again, thank you. You're the absolute best. This is always a delight for me each and every week.
Yeah, appreciate BetOnline.ag for rocking with Mark and I since day one. Want to appreciate you too, Mark. Want to thank everybody behind the scenes at Bleav and still a podcast as well. And got to thank our fans and followers for always tuning in to us. Make sure y'all give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Stay tuned. We got a lot more to come. New season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Watch Kenny Pickett and company and Minka work the defense with Cam Hayward.
For Ike Taylor, I'm Mark Bergin. Thanks for watching the Bleav in Steelers show. We will be back next week. Until then, take care and so long, everybody.
Peace.